houses may not have windows externally that allow onlookers to see a woman sitting or standing. This is roughly a law that has been put into place by the Taliban in Afghanistan, further dehumanizing women for religious fundamental reasons. But that could never happen here, I hear you cry. That would be ludicrous. Insane, really. But those same voices I seem to recall saying, well, Roe v. Wade, it's ironclad. It's precedent. They'll never come for that. And now we see that Obergefell versus Hodges, the protections for same-sex marriage are being scrutinized for, again, religious reasons. So theocracy is knocking at the door of the halls of power. Those that would use religion as an excuse for their predations and their bigotry are in seats of power. We have an office of faith to try and counter religious bias, anti-Christian bias specifically. And does that not put organisations like the ACA firmly in the crosshairs? But maybe you disagree. Maybe you think this kind of thing's not so bad. That you think God should have a place in how laws are written and that the divine should touch the legal. And that you believe that this is indeed a Christian nation. And we need a bit more of this Bible along with the Constitution. So if you would like to make comment in this or defend it in any way, then do please call us, because the show starts now.
Hello, hello, hello. Today is March the 9th, 2025. Already 2025, I feel old. I'm your host, Richard Gilliver, and joining me today is fellow Brit extraordinaire, Jamie the Blind Limey. How are you, sir?
I'm sort of like an ambulatory meat puppet piloted by someone who doesn't know all the controls.
Okay, I didn't expect that. I don't know whether that's good or bad,
It's
folks,
not
but
great.
it's Jamie.
I'm feeling a little dissociated because on the one hand, I'm actually doing all right myself, but on the other hand, just look at the world and the news, and I'm like, oh no, everything's bad.
Yeah. The news will do that to you. The world may not. It depends where you are in it. I had a lovely trip out into the world yesterday, out into nature and various old things, because we have old things in Britain. I visited a 1,000-year-old castle and a 4,000-year-old hill fort. All in one day, so it was great fun. So it's not all bad. It doesn't have to be all bad. Talk Heathen is a product of the Atheist Community of Austin, a 501c3 non-profit organisation dedicated to the promotion of atheism, critical thinking, secular humanism, and the separation of religion and government. Talk Heathen is a live and call-in show, and we have open lines, so get your calls in on 512-991-9242 or from your computer at tiny.cc/callth. And a great way to support us is by sending super chats. So we are not doing an incentive thing today because I've not thought of one. But please just give us your money if you can, and we will read out your super chats if it is appropriate to do so. But of course, we always have our can't speak section, question of the week, in which we are going to bring up our wonderful, wonderful backup host, Jimmy Jr., to take the reins. Take it away, Jimmy.
Hello, everybody. Thank you, gentlemen, for bringing me up to do this honor, if you will. My favorite time of the week. Talk Heathen to me. Last week, we asked you, complete the sentence. The worst part about heaven is blank. And here are our top three answers. Johnny and Katie picked these, and I'm sure they had a tough time choosing because these are pretty good. So number 3 comes from our good friend, Chuck Gatos. The worst thing about heaven is that clouds that look light and fluffy from here are cold and damp when you're sitting on one. Yeah. False promises, I say. Any commentary, gentlemen?
Just don't sit on the ones that have got hundreds of thousands of volts of electricity shooting through them, because that's Well, I mean, some people are into that, and I'm not going to yuck anyone to yum.
Well, number two, yeah. Number two, the Psycho 420. The worst part of heaven is the parties. Yeah, I'd have to agree because you're in heaven with all the people that you tried to avoid being around in the first place, most likely anyway. I don't know what the parties would be like in heaven, but I feel like, I'd just be with all the people that, were mean and judgmental to me my whole life.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And all the music would be awful. Like, no good music, no libations.
Yeah. It doesn't sound like a party at all. But, wow, Chuck Gatos made it again. Chuck, that's cheating. Multiple answers, but we're going to go with it for this week. Number one, the worst part about heaven is having to listen to generations of past apologists bragging about having been right. Sounds like
that would be awful. That would be awful. If they were right, of course, because not all Christians believe the same thing. So it depends which version of heaven we went to.
I imagine like a massive Disney World where, like, if you want to leave, you can't because you'll never find your car because the car park is literally infinite.
Well, we spend a lot of time with apologists that just don't make any sense and can't kind of justify their religion in any way that's understandable. So I don't know why they would be bragging. Being right and being happy about being right are two different things, in my opinion. But we appreciate everybody for tuning in and dropping those questions on us. We have a new prompt for this week, and the prompt is, why did Jesus skip his high school reunion? And gentlemen, of course, I'm going to go to you to take it away and set the example for our callers. Why do you think that Jesus skipped his high school reunion? Jamie, we're going to go with you first, since you're already laughing.
He's still trying to duck those rumors about that one time he got nailed by a three-way.
Oh, your mind is in the gutter, young man, and it's pretty much where mine is, because my answer is he's behind the shed with the other young men experimenting their sexuality.
Yeah, he's got better things to do.
He's got the whole world in his hands and other places. Anyway,
all right. So that is gonna
get
lead off our.
That's what it's gonna get.
Yeah, right. I hope not. Let's just be cool. All right, that was normal. We were allowed to do that, and we're gonna take more suggestions for next week, folks. So enter your best answer in the comments below the video, not the show chat if you're watching now, but after the show is over, you can comment and leave your best answer, and we will see if it makes next week's top 3. So tune in to the beginning of next week's show to see if you got into the top 3. Remember, why did Jesus skip his high school reunion? Guys, thank you so much for having me on.
Thank you, Jimmy.
You're always welcome, Jimmy. Thank you very much. We are going to jump to the crew, the fantastic people who make this show happen. So you can all applaud them, laugh at them, whatever you want. Let's bring the crew up and have a look at their wonderful, wonderful faces, if they are there. There they are. Look at them all. Look at there's some facial hair going off today. Look at Lee. Look at that fine specimen of a beard.
For this beard, I paid the iron price.
It was the Gladiators is a show that's on the UK TV now. I know you're familiar with it in the US as well. And we had one of the Gladiators last night on the episode. One of the Gladiators and one of the contestants were just spitting images of each other. It was like looking in the mirror, and I felt that's like a little bit what it was like there, looking at younger versions of Lee in various stages of facial hairness.
I think they just called it American Gladiators here, and I think it was a big thing, especially in the 80s and 90s.
Yes, it was indeed. Anyway, moving on. Let's talk to some people. We're going to talk to Jake, who is a deist from Missouri. So, Jake, hello, how are you? And what do you want to talk about? Jake, are you there?
Hello.
I can hear something. Jake, are you there? I'm going to drop you back in the queue, Jake. And we are going to take the Starman from Florida. The Starman, are you there?
Hello.
Hey.
Hello. How are you? What is it you want to talk about? The Starman?
Hello?
The Starman was there.
Yeah, we heard him for a second. Are we having some technical issues, I wonder?
Yes, I'm going to return the Starman to the queue, and we'll get the crew. If the queue can give us a shout out when we've got that sorted out, if that's a problem on our end. And in the meantime, Jamie, let us do one of these wonderful, wonderful things that we've got. People have said about us. So,
I'm sure
Jamie,
it's flattering and not at all horrid.
yeah, so someone said to you, Jamie, gotta be threatened by the Bible a bit if you're using it as the set point to debate for your videos to gain likes, views, and followers. That is comment number 13 on the list.
Well, I use the Bible not because I'm threatened by it. You may as well threaten me with a copy of the Chronicles of Narnia, but it's the book that you all, Christians, are referencing. So, you know, I'm basically meeting you on your own terms. I'm not asking you to, I'm not coming at you saying your religion's wrong because of the origin of the species or whatever. I'll meet you where you're at. But I'm not threatened by your book. Unless you're directly throwing it at my face, then no, I'm not threatened by it at all.
That would be one way to threaten someone with the Bible. I've had my fair share of comments as well. Somebody has said, and this is comment number 8 on the list, too many scientists have a bias against God, not to mention the pretend scientists on social media. And that was in response to me talking about the fact that there are Christian scientists who accept evolution. I don't think people necessarily have a bias. I don't think scientists have a bias against God as such. There are, as I was commenting on, many people who are scientists who believe in various gods from various cultures around the world. I think it's just that the evidence doesn't point there. And when the evidence doesn't point there, it's quite right. They don't confuse the work and their work and their belief. And I have had this on social media before, where I've talked to, there's an astrophysicist I've tried communicating with several times, who's also a Christian apologist, and she will go on a social media accounts, and she will say, she will conflate the two. She will say that, there is plenty of evidence for God's existence. We should just look at the universe. And every time I try and engage with her and say, where have you shown that in your actual work? There's, then the communication breaks down, because that is obviously something that she cannot do. Anyway, the calls are back on. I'm going to take Jake again. Starman, please wait patiently. We will get to you. Jake, can you hear us now?
Yes, sir.
Good. Thank you. Thank you for being patient, and I'm sorry about those technical issues. What is it you'd like to talk to us about?
Yes, I'm a former Catholic, and right now, there are times I'm trying to figure out where my place is of what I am, if I believe. I've tried to convince myself if I'm an atheist, or I kind of teeter between atheists and agnosticism and deism. But I believe, I'd say I do believe in the existence of a creator that created everything, all the universe and all life and everything. But I don't believe in, I don't believe in any religion. I'm against religion. I don't believe in the Bible. I don't believe in an afterlife, like heaven or hell. I don't believe in Satan, but part of me just can't, really get over that. I see intelligent design in everything, in like the universe and life, the human body, and just everything, that I just can't accept the fact that it all just happened by chance. I do. I see a design, an intelligent mind, the creator created all of it. And
there's a couple of things there, Chief, that I wanted to just step in on. First of all, chance. It doesn't necessarily have to have been by chance. It may be that because of the fundamental forces and laws of the universe, this is the only way that reality can be, given the way things are. Now, you might then say, well, who set those parameters? Again, they don't have to have been set by any thinking agent to make those things. And when you say intelligent design, there's plenty of stuff that I could point to just in the human body that is terribly designed. And not just because mine are broken, but the eyes, why are the lenses put that way so that the picture's inverted and our brains have to interpret it? Why are the rods and cones behind the blood vessels? That's not the same in every creature. Why does why do we have a nerve that goes all the way down from our head all the way down to the heart and back up again? There's lots of stuff about the body that, if someone was actually designing it, would go, yeah, that's not efficient. Let's change that. Let's make it better. Why does the thing that gives us life also kill us? Why does the sun give us cancer? So many examples I could bring that really don't look intelligent to me. And if there was an intelligence behind it, then it's a malevolent one at that. So that's my piece. What about you, Richard?
Yeah,
Jake, please respond to Jamie, and then I'll jump in.
I know what you're saying. But let's say it was like the human body, or just any form of life, but especially saying human beings, it was the design is terrible, like on a car. Stuff starts to go wrong with the car after a while, but it was poorly designed, but it was still designed by something.
But we're talking about, presumably, we're talking about something, a creature or an intelligence that has, and I don't know what your opinion is about the kind of faculties of this intelligence, but presumably it's a great intelligence and a great designer. Certainly that's the belief of most people who believe in an intelligent designer, that it is a supreme designer. And if we had the ability to design, let's say, a car, and design it supremely so it didn't go wrong, and we could do that, there seems to be only two options. Either that designer doesn't exist because we don't see that in creation, in humans or in animals or in nature, or that designer purposefully designed those things with a flaw, in which case, we then start having to question why that creator did that. So I think, this is a very important point to look at. And also I want to kind of piggyback on Jamie's when he said, why chance? Because I hear this again a lot from people, or it's either this or it's chance. I don't think anything is chance in the universe. Things are the way they are because of pressures, environmental pressures, and certainly on the earth. And things are the way they are in the universe because that's how things came into motion. It wasn't a chance. It wasn't a roll of a dice. It was the way it is. And unfortunately, we don't have a second universe or a third universe or a set of universes to kind of compare it against, to say, well, this was chance, this one was chance, this one was design. We don't have that. All we have is the data set of one to work from. So I don't think, for me, chance is not something that is the case.
I hear what you're saying. That's kind of where the deist part of me comes in. This creator that whatever it is, whoever it is, like set it all into motion and just like step back and let it take its natural cause, take its natural course and everything, and doesn't intervene with human life and human affairs and everything. And
so,
just like if someone gets sick.
Jake, are you familiar with the concept of the God of the gaps, where people, instead of saying, I don't know, which is what we say, and someone says, well, where does the universe come from? How did it all start? I don't know. They say God. They put God into places where there's a current lack of knowledge, and it's been that way time immemorial. So many things that were unexplained were given to God. The weather, illnesses, all kinds of stuff. But every single time we've discovered what's actually causing it, it's never, ever been God. So that's one thing. And the other thing I want to ask you, Jake, and I don't want to be rude here, why do you want there to be a God? Do you want there to be a God?
Well, I would say that it gives me, like I said, I don't believe like in an afterlife really, but I'm not saying that it's it's not out of the realm of possibility. But like I said, I don't believe in heaven or hell or Satan or anything. Maybe reincarnation, but I don't know. But like I think like why most people do it, like they say they believe in a God. It's like, okay, let's say there really is a God that created everything. Why would that God really care if we worship it or not, or believe in him or not? But it still like gives you some kind of comfort, some kind of crutch that we're not alone in the universe,
That's the word I was waiting to come up, comfort. And what is more important, comfort or truth?
Truth.
Okay. So many truths are uncomfortable.
Yeah, really. But if you ask me, I really don't care if there's like a God watching or whatever, because I believe if there is a God that created everything, then it's a deistic God that doesn't intervene. Obviously, I look at history and humanity and everything, and just. So
I'm going to ask one final question of you, Jake, and then because I don't want to bogart the call. Let's say that there is a deistic God. How could I tell the difference if there's no evidence of his intervention other than the seeming of design? How could I tell the difference between a universe that was deistically put into motion and one that wasn't? Is there any way?
I'd say no.
Okay. So to me, at least, the distinction is moot. And I'd rather be as intellectually honest as possible and just rather say, I don't know, rather than fill the gap. But that's my last word on that. How about you, Rich?
Yeah, Jake, you keep throughout this call, and thank you for this call, by the way, and thank you for the way you've interacted on it. It's been really good. You keep saying this thing, if there is a God, and what we're interested in, and I think you've just said yourself, you're more interested in what is true. I think what you should be looking at yourself is, why should we think there is a God? It's all very well and good speculating, saying, well, if there is a God, he could be this way. If there is a God, he could have done that. But what reason do we have for thinking that there is a God?
Yeah, so like I mentioned earlier about people wanting to find some kind of like feeling of comfort and like a meaning to their existence, really, and just instead of thinking like we all just came about from nothing by chance. People just want to feel a void that's filled like in their lives, that something higher than them, more powerful than them, created them, and if you could be a deistic God, believe in a deistic God, or believe that this God cares about you and loves you. But I think that if there really is a God that created everything, or creator, call it God, call it whatever you want, but then I believe that obviously it is obviously a deistic God that does not intervene and doesn't really care.
But Jake, forgive me, you've just said when in answer to that question, people might want to, or people will believe in this God because they want comfort, because they want this. But that didn't answer the question why we should believe in this God. That answers the question, why do we think that people might believe in this God? But why should we believe this God exists? Why do you believe this God exists?
Because of just everything, everything that's been created, all life, I just can't, get over and the fact and just try to convince myself that it all just, happened, that it was not designed, because to me, it's obvious that, the human body was designed, the earth was designed, nature, science was all designed. Like people say, like they don't believe in God, they believe in nature. It's like, or they believe in science. Well, who created science and nature?
And does the idea that there is a possibility that all of this is as it is for no other reason than that it is, that this is just the way the universe is because it has to be, and there is no design or inherent meaning behind it, does that cause you discomfort or even fear?
I'd say it causes me discomfort because it just shows I don't know. It's just it just kind of leaves a void, feel, a big void in your life, a kind of feeling in you that you want to fill, and a lot of people say an atheist will say, well, if God created everything, who created God? Who designed God? But then I
wouldn't say that. I would just to be clear, I wouldn't say that. I think that's a silly thing to say, and that any atheists out there who do say that, it's a silly thing to say. Don't say that. But that's just my take. Sorry for interrupting, Jake. Carry on.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, there's this point here, like an atheist will say they believe in evolution. But that, usually when they're arguing with a theist, they say okay, you believe God created everything. Well, who designed God? Who created God? And it's well, maybe he just she, it, or they, whatever it is, just came from nothing, just evolved. Just like they believe the earth did and human and life did.
So. You're getting tangled up here a bit, Jake. I think. Sorry to interrupt you, Chief, but you are starting to sound like you're parroting talking points from the less credible parts of Christian, especially Christian apologetics, like that we believe that everything came from nothing. We don't. We believe that everything happened by chance. We don't. Well, some might. Atheism is not a monolith. Atheism is one answer to one question, which is, do you believe that a god or gods exist? And the answer is no. There's different reasons to be an atheist. There's different ways to approach it. There's good and bad ways to approach it as well. But I would recommend you stop building straw men of atheists and do what you've done today, which is very brave of you, which is come on to a show and talk to some. And feel free to join our Discord and stuff and really get into the weeds on it. Because if you truly believe that truth is more important than comfort, then it would behoove you to try and set your thinking to try and achieve that goal. Now, all of us are susceptible to some magical thinking or irrationality. It's just the way we are. And humans are naturally curious creatures. We want to know everything of all the things. But unfortunately, we're also pattern matching creatures. So if we can't know, we'll make shit up. And so you want to try and train yourself. And it does sometimes take a little bit of actual introspection and training to avoid that instinct of I don't know what's happening, so I'm just going to imagine what I think is going on. And I think that's a better way of going about thinking in general, not just about God.
Jake, just out of curiosity, Jake, why do you think that atheists think that the universe and evolution or life comes from nothing?
Well, I don't believe like all atheists think that, but it just seems like whenever I talk with someone who's an atheist, or I see like, you know, these debates on YouTube and stuff, and on this show and stuff, it just seems like they, like the only like a theist says they believe in a creator, but it just seems like the atheist always just settles with, you know, goes back saying I don't know, or, you know, it just evolution, you know, it's just natural selection or whatever.
But admitting that you don't know something, because what we do is we follow evidence for things like the Big Bang Theory or abiogenesis, things like that, which is what we're actually kind of talking about when talking about creation of life, not evolution. That comes later. But what we're doing is we're following the evidence, and when we get to a certain point where we don't know, where the evidence cannot show us anymore, where we don't have an answer, the intellectually honest thing to do is to say, I don't know. That's not the same as saying we think it comes from nothing. That is making a statement about where you think it comes from. That would require evidence. But that's not what we're doing. What we're doing when we say we don't know is saying we followed this as far as the evidence leads. We don't have an answer beyond that. So instead of filling those gaps that we have in our knowledge with things like God, we're just going to be intellectually honest and say, we don't know the answer to that. Do you not think that's a much better thing to do than inserting an answer that we have no evidence for?
Yes, I live. I'm anti-religious. I live my life like there's no God. You know, I live my life according to, you know, my will and my obedience. I don't believe that, you know, a higher power really cares how I live my life. You know, if there is a higher power, or a creator, I do. Part of me does believe that in a creator, but, you know, like I said, the deistic part of me that comes in and, you know, realize that, you know, this doesn't really care if I believe in him or worship him or not, you know, whatever they are, he or whatever. But I do believe that, you know, there was somehow some kind of creation from an intelligent mind.
Again, sorry to jump in, Jake, and you've made it very clear that you still have this belief that you carry. But that's the reason why I expanded the scope of my talking about rational thinking to outside of the religious scope, because believing something without evidence will get you in trouble for lots of different reasons, even if it's not about a god. If you get a really convincing email that tells you that you've won a prize and you click that link, sans evidence that it's actually real, oh no, now you've got malware. So there's plenty of other places in your life where you probably don't just believe things on evidence because it would be nice if it were true. So all I would implore you is to take that proper sort of approach to belief, like withhold it until such time as it's evidenced, and just use it everywhere, including your belief in God. And just to give you an example of how my thinking as an atheist changed to become more intellectually honest, when I was but a wee babby atheist, waving my hands around and going, grr, God bad, I used to say God doesn't exist. And then I realised that I can't prove that. So I stopped because it was not honest. So now I honestly say I don't believe he exists, but I don't know. And that's what being an agnostic atheist is about.
Okay, yeah. But going back to like the atheist or agnostic, you know, deist or whatever terminology, well, you know, just by definition, like atheism just means like lacking a belief in the existence of a creator, right?
Oh, God or gods, they don't necessarily have to be a creator.
And I kind of disagree with that, but everybody has different opinions on that. So, you know, I think there are, you can use atheism as a positive claim as well, but that's in a more kind of strictly philosophical sense. You know, in general, just having these conversations, saying I lack a belief is sufficient for many of these conversations.
Yes. by definition, like then agnosticism is not knowing. But like by definition, if someone says they're like an agnostic, then really they're just like Dawkins says, watered down, atheism. Are by definition, are they an atheist because they're lacking the belief in a God?
Well, in common parlance, at least around the circles that we were in, atheism and agnosticism are two different things. One's about knowledge and one's about belief. Theism and atheism, do you believe or not? Gnosticism, agnosticism, do you know or not? And so most honest people, when it comes to the idea of God, be you atheist or theist, would be agnostic. I believe there's a God, but I don't know, not for certain. Or I don't believe there's a God, but I don't know, not for certain. I don't trust people who say they know that there is definitely not. like I have trouble trusting people who say, I definitely know there's a God. And I even have trouble trusting people saying, I definitely know there isn't one. If you can evidence it to me or logically prove, like there's certain God concepts that I think are probably very unlikely, but it's a bit sticky when you start making truth claims like that.
I'm glad you said that because I was just about to interject and say I think I can demonstrate certain God concepts.
Yeah, take it on a God by God basis.
That.
Yeah, God by God basis. Yeah.
Yeah. So. Yeah. Thanks, guys, for taking my call. I've been listening to the show for like 10 years now.
Wow.
Absolutely, Jake, and thank you for listening, and thank you for your support, and thank you for calling. It's a really good question. One thing I would implore you to do, Jake, is go back and listen to the call when the show's over. Don't listen to it until the show's over because there's more show to come. But go and listen to it when the show's over, and let's have that conversation with yourself and ask yourself, really, what is it in my responses that are answering the question, I believe God because, and is that because justified? And really have a look at that and have that conversation with yourself, and feel free to give us a call back. I'm going to let you go, Jake. Thank you very much for the call. Jamie, that was a great call for the first call of the show. I
really enjoyed that. He was very nice and calm. I mean, I just think that I would imagine that he is a rational thinker in basically every other aspect of his life, but there's just this one last thing that you can't really let go of. And there's plenty of things like that. Like I say, we're all susceptible to it. So while I will plant my flag and say there's no minimum safe level of bullshit, like many things that are bad for us, maybe a little bit as a treat.
Yeah, if you do want to call, if you disagree with anything we have said, or indeed if you are a theist and you disagree with anything the previous deist caller said, please give us a call and let's have the conversation. We get lots of criticism in the, I mention this place every week, but the Atheist Community of Austin Facebook page, I spend a lot of time there, people responding to theists and inviting them to call the show. They don't come. And a lot of them give the excuse that I'm not calling that show because all you want to do is control the conversation. All you want to do is put people on mute. All you want to do is shout at people. And as that call we have just taken demonstrates, that is not the case. Yeah. What we want is calls like the one we've just had, where we can have a good conversation with someone, a good exploration of the subject. And it's, if it comes to us muting people, if it comes to us letting people go, it's more often than not because that person has come in off the bat and wants to control the conversation and has a script and is not interested in an honest conversation. You come in here honest, you will get a conversation like the one we've just had.
And as that last call has exemplified, we don't insist that you change your mind on the call. You can go in, you can come in with this, you can leave with the same beliefs you came in with, as long as you've explained them well enough and we've rebutted them as well as we can, hopefully planting the seeds of better thought patterns and better epistemology, who knows. Then you can still go away and go, yeah, still don't see it your way, guys, but nice chat. That's all we're asking.
Yeah. That is literally all we want out of the show. So please stop these really bad excuses for not calling. Just give us a call. Just give us a call. Anyway, we've had the call. So It's now after the first call, so I'm going to thank everyone, every single one of you who tuned in for our 24-hour fundraiser event with Amplify Austin on March 5th and the 6th. We were shooting to raise $8,000. Have I read that right? We far surpassed that by raking in over 10,000. Thank you so much to everyone who tuned in and donated to us. We cannot execute our mission without your support. And this was a huge, huge success. And for those of you who couldn't make it, you can still donate at tiny.cc/amplifyaca. So please go and check us out there and donate if you can. The video for that, it was a 24-hour special extravaganza. The video for that is not currently available. It will be going up. I have been assured. We've been talking before the show. It will be going up at some point. There was some great segments. Yeah. Jamie did a spot. Me and Kelly Laughlin talked about new age music lyrics. So if you're into your new age music, check that out when that video goes up. And you can still donate. So please get those donations in to Amplify, tiny.cc/amplifyaca. It really, really, really does make a difference.
The crew and everyone behind it were absolute champions. Like, I stayed up, but I was not even close to one of our main producers was up for something like 36 hours straight. What an absolute legend.
Yeah, and it was no more grumpy than normal either. The ACA wants you to know what is going on in our community. Head to www.atheist-community.org, where you can learn about the organization itself, its policies, and how you can get involved. And another way to support us is by sending super chats, which we've already mentioned. We'll read them live on air, so feel free to make us read the things you've written, assuming, of course, they are YouTube appropriate. And we have merch. Get your Talk Heathen merch at tiny.cc merch ACA. Look at all that great swag. I might get one of those little baby grow costumes for myself.
I was literally drinking my coffee out of a high quality Talk Heathen mug this very morning.
It's on that side. I'm pointing to the wrong side. Where is it? Where's my finger? Where's the logo? There we go. There we go. We've all got some ACA swag somewhere or other, and you can get yours. And finally, we want to hear from you. We want to know what you liked and what you thought was effective, and more importantly, what you thought we could do better. Email us at tv@atheist-community.org and let us know. And please, let's have kind of sensible suggestions. I recently had someone commenting on the YouTube comments on one of the Talk Heathen shows, stating, in fact, that I couldn't be a real atheist because I have got a tattoo of Shiva. Now, I don't have a tattoo of Shiva. I don't have a tattoo of any Indian gods on me at all. And what is even more weird about that comment is in the particular video they were commenting on, none of my tattoos were visible. So this person's obviously hunted down pictures of me to find and comment on. And the only tattoo I have that could even be vaguely related to being Shiva is in a place which is very, very rarely on display. So I'm really wondering how hard this person actually hunted and looked for these tattoos. That's slightly concerning. So please keep it sensible if you're going to get in touch with us. But yeah, any kind of reasonable criticism, any suggestions, feel free to get in touch with us. We do have calls.
I just had a horrific thought, just to say, I won't say it right now, but I will say it in the after show. So if anyone's coming there, I've got to. There's a joke I literally just can't say on screen right now.
If you want to hear Jamie making appropriate comments, come to the after show. The Starman, we are going to take you. Sorry about earlier on, my friend. What is it you'd like to talk to us about?
Well, hello there, gentlemen. First of all, do you mind if I comment to Jake, our last caller?
No, please. Feel free.
There seems to be like this need to add a face to everything that we do. Like, for example, like in order to relate to anything, we always have to add a face to it. So, maybe there isn't such a thing as a intelligent creator, but what about the alternative? The third alternative, whether there is one or there isn't. What about if we just come from something that is, like, I don't know, like something like we're just like a passive cell in a body. Like this is a microcosm, of something much bigger than us. You know what I mean?
I mean, there are like the whole panpsychism and pantheism. Like everything is God. We are part of God, or we're part of a bigger thing. Yeah, I mean, I've heard theories of that nature. Again, my answer would be, where's your evidence? That's about it, really.
Well, I mean, just in general, like we need to love everything around us, or we could destroy it and see what happens. And then, his biggest concern was comfort in what happens when he dies. Well, the comfort should be that the things will go on, because if, you love God and we are all God and we are all part of God, then wouldn't we just want things to keep going on?
I mean, I don't need a God concept to love the things around me that are deserving of it, or to cherish life in general, or existence, or to feel privileged to be given my short blip of time in this reality. So again, I would say that you can approach these needs and these thoughts from a sans God approach. You can do it in a secular manner. And again, I would always be suspicious of believing things without evidence because of their comfort. I mean, you're just replacing one comforting thought with a different comforting thought, each of which are equally in-evidenced. So it's much of a muchness to me from where I'm sitting there, Starman. But, I mean, we're a little bit off topic. You had something else you wanted to talk about if you wanted to sort of move on to your main thrust for us today.
Right. So I come from a Christian Baptist background, and I grew up, getting baptized and everything. I was all in on Christianity, and the political atmosphere has pretty much destroyed my family and my political beliefs, and it's really devastating to me because everything I grew up thinking and believing in has turned on its head. I can't see Christians the same way. They are the most hateful people on earth. They hate gays, they hate the poor, they hate the immigrants. They're selfish, and it goes against what Christ is all about. Like, see, I think, and I hope that Christ was a real man, and maybe he had a message of love, and maybe it got lost in translation over the years, over the 2,000 years. I don't think he was God. I just think he figured it out, that we were all one.
I'm just going to jump into a second here, Starman, just to defend Christians. Again, don't end up committing that good old no true Scotsman fallacy. There are plenty of compassionate and lovely people who are practicing Christians. Some of my favourite people on the planet are practicing Christians. And if you want examples of Christians standing up against the fundamentalisation and the nationalism and stuff, just watch the speech of the bishop just after inauguration, asking for mercy and essentially praying for the powers that be currently to treat these groups, the trans people and immigrants and the downtrodden and the poor, with mercy and kindness. Now, would I argue with them on their epistemology about their belief and blah, 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 and all that good academic bollocks? Yeah, of course I would. But if they're going to stand side by side with me on issues like human rights, I don't care if they're wearing a dog collar, I don't care if they've got a Star of David or a yarmulke or a turban or a full burqa, I don't care. as long as we are aligned and they are humanists, I will call them an ally, and I will defend their personhood, if not some of their beliefs.
Yeah, but then you just said that they're praying for the mercy of trans or gays. Like, why do they need that mercy? From what?
From the predations of the government. Like, the bishop was not asking for the mercy of God. They were asking for the mercy of the U.S. government. They were praying for maybe to invoke God to soften the hearts of them. Again, weird epistemology. But it's basically saying, if you want to call yourself an actual Christian, you need to be nice. And they were saying it from the pulpit, and they got absolutely lambasted for it. So yes, some Christians or people claiming to be Christian out there, not the nicest people, but that's because any group of people can have assholes in it. Atheists, plenty of atheist assholes, plenty of people I used to admire. I have now no longer admired because of the thoughts they espouse. They don't believe in God, neither do I. I don't think we can be friends because of other reasons. So I would avoid tarring entire swaths of the population with the same brush for a simple belief claim, basically, because I would take people on the merits of their actions rather than just some of their beliefs, basically.
I agree, but as someone that's been in the church and been like in the action of everyone and how they talk about everyone and how they treat everyone, and even from my family's point of view, I mean, we're also Cuban, so as you can imagine, like, you know, for some reason, most Cubans hate other Hispanic people because they think they're better than other Hispanic people. And you could ask any Cuban that, and I'm pretty sure they will all agree with me because that's just the way they are. And, you know, it's the way we're raised. I'm actually a white Cuban, but there are also black Cubans. But if you ask any white Cubans, they don't see themselves as Hispanic. They don't. They see themselves as above. That's why they mostly align with a certain political party, because they think that they can get away with blending in. And I'm over it. I'm over the hypocrisy of all that. And that's why I've left the church. And I don't think I'm atheist. I think I'm leaning more towards Gnosticism, because I still believe that we come from something. Because if you think about it, like, we are little electrical impulses in our brains, and electricity has mass, and mass is, it cannot be destroyed, just reformed. So we come from something. Scientifically, we come from something.
So why do you think that something's a god?
A dot?
A god. G-O-D.
Oh, my bad. No, because it's funny, because I would actually say something is a dot. Like, I would say that we are the circle is a very significant symbol, because I believe in iteration, and I think that everything, like, if you see the stars, cells, planets, again, we're a microcosm and a macrocosm. There is things we didn't happen by chance. We happen over iteration, right? And
so why do you think there's a God? I would agree with virtually everything you've said there. That doesn't lead me to God. Well, so why does it lead you to God?
Come from something. Because we have to come from something.
Do we?
Correct. Why God?
Okay, let's call. Why do we not refer to the Big Bang Theory, the whatever you call that God atom that we exploded from? Why wouldn't that be God?
There's no reason. Why is there okay? So why is there a reason that you think that the Big Bang Theory points to God?
Well, we have a name for it in the Big Bang cosmology theory. It's called the singularity, and it's not God. It's a singularity. It's what we've defined it as. You can't just put the God label on something and say that's God. It's like, is this chair God? You know, am I God? Define what a God is. Is it an intelligent agent? Does it interfere? Can we communicate with it? Does it interfere in our lives or not? And there's so many different God concepts. You could slap the God label on the singularity if you like, but it makes no difference to me. I'm just going to keep calling it the singularity.
And that's fine, and it doesn't change anything, and that's fine. Again, the whole point of this entire experiment of existence is the comfort and finding comfort that things will go on whether we're here or we're not.
So I want to kind of get back to this because I don't think you really answered that question. Why do you think that is God?
Well, okay. So what's the point of God? All right, let's drill that down. What's the point of God? Well, the point of God is finding something that's outside of ourselves, right? And we have to have come from something. So that's outside of ourselves, and that is God. And does it matter or not whether it's intelligent? No, we just need to love it. We don't need to worship.
It kind of matters if all you're doing is reframing something that we already have a reasonable amount of explanation for, and it contains no intelligence whatsoever, and you just start referring to it as a god, which traditionally is a being that has intelligence, which has motivation. And, why relabel it? Why not just call it what it is? Why do you want to relabel it to God?
Why do you want to relabel it to not God?
I'm not.
Like,
it's not. The science of the Big Bang Theory doesn't posit anywhere that it's God. So at some point you've taken that, if I'm understanding correctly, and you're saying, right, this brought us into creation, therefore I am going to rename this God. Why are you doing that instead of just referring to it as what it is, which is the Big Bang Theory?
Well, let's break it down even smaller. Let's say Earth, okay? Earth is an organism that is powered by the cells that is us, the humans and animals and seeds, all that. Like, let's say that is a god.
I think you're making an equivocation fallacy there. I think you've seen two things that are similar, like an ecosystem and a body, and going, oh, they look kind of similar, so they must be the same. No, like singular organisms, ecosystems, planets, cosmology, like they may have certain traits in common, but just because electrons don't actually orbit nuclei. They jump up and down in cloud shells. If the solar system looked like an actual atom, it'd be fucking wild. But just because there's certain similarities between different natural systems does not mean that we are cells in the body of the Earth. So I would say that again, pattern matching, which is what we love to do as humans, is not really leading you to any kind of truth outside of like oh yeah, man, totes, oh yeah, I see it, kind of like fireside bong rip kind of stuff, but nothing particularly concrete.
Yeah, I want to jump back.
Again, it goes back to
Starman, I want to jump back to the beginning of the universe again. I'm just going to explain why, and I'm not just dismissing you when you talk about the Earth thing. I think it was Lovelock who came up with the Gaia theory, and the Gaia theory had nothing. It spoke as an Earth as an ecosystem, and compared to a living organism. And a lot of people misunderstood what he was saying. He wasn't saying that there was some kind of living organism that was the Earth. That's not what Lovelock was saying when he did that. But a lot of people jumped on that, exactly as you've just done, and misunderstood what he was saying. And that is not how the Earth is. The Earth would continue without any living organisms on it whatsoever. The Earth wouldn't crumble and disappear from the universe without people or consciousness or things that, were alive on it. It would just continue as it did for many, many hundreds and thousands of years before any life was there at all. So I I don't understand why that is relevant to what I was asking you. What I was asking you, which I'm going to return to because I don't feel you sufficiently answered it, was why would you reframe the Big Bang as being God?
Well, I mean, again, and this is what you had mentioned earlier, is that we often need to like find or find a God or a reason or a logic for something. It's what if God is the space between things that we don't understand? Okay, like
what if? But what reason do we have to think that?
Something's holding.
That's the important part, Starman. I don't believe in God, and I'm kept going quite well. I've got to 47 years on this earth without believing in a God, and I'm still going just fine without one. We don't need a God to keep going. It may give comfort to people, and I have no doubt that it does give comfort to people. I have very little doubt that it performed the belief in something, some kind of power beyond ourselves, some kind of intelligence beyond ourselves, was an important part of our evolutionary process. That doesn't mean it's true. And the thing is, what we're trying to get to the bottom of here is you believe that a God exists and you have equivocated the Big Bang with God. What I want to know is why you have done that. The comfort level it brings you is irrelevant to that question, because I'm not asking why people believe God, exactly as we did with the first caller, why people believe in a God and it gives them comfort. You know, I can grasp that. I understand why that occurs. What I'm asking is why you personally, as a believer in God, believe that the Big Bang is equated with God.
The problem is that you have likened God to an intelligent creator. I never said that. We are just part of his body, and that's it. We're just keeping it going. That's all I'm saying. Whether
you're just relabeling something. That's just relabeling something, Starman. All you're doing there is relabeling something, and it serves no purpose to do that. We can just call it the Big Bang. It has all the same properties as the Big Bang. We do not need to relabel it as God. Yeah. So if you genuinely believe, and I'm not going to second guess what your beliefs are or what you're convinced of, but if you genuinely believe this is not an intelligence, this is not something that had motivation in creating the universe, that it is simply, the description of the Big Bang theory that we have, you're just going to relabel that as God. That is, first of all, entirely uninteresting to me personally. And from your point of view, I would suggest that you really, really examine why you're doing that, because it serves no purpose to do that. If you don't genuinely believe it is an intelligence, if you genuinely believe that it has no explanatory power as something, an intelligence with a motivation that set this thing into motion, and all you're doing is relabeling it, why are you doing that? Because that seems like a lot of wasted energy thinking about that and examining that and just relabeling it. That, I could go out to my car every single day on my commute to work, and I could say to my wife as I leave the house, I'm just going to get in the aeroplane and go to work. It would serve no purpose. And it seems that's all you're doing when you're doing this relabeling.
And I feel that a lot of people, and again, I don't know, this isn't me saying that you do this, Starman, but a lot of people who try and say that the universe is God, or we are God, or everything's God, are trying to bring the sort of the trappings of divinity or specialness or like the romantic idea of godliness onto mundane things. But just by putting a label on something does not make it so. If I write the word hair on my slap dome, it does not give me a flowing load of locks. So just putting a label on something, just by calling something God, does not make it divine. So I don't know. That's sometimes what I feel what people are doing, because they just don't think it's special enough, I guess.
I think there's a lot of pushback to you're saying that there's wasted energy in fighting or renaming it, but I feel like there's wasted energy in fighting whether or not it's called God or a Big Bang or a singularity.
The thing is,
it doesn't matter.
I was going to stop you there, Starman, for one good reason. Nobody uses the word singularity or Big Bang for bigotry. Nobody uses the word Big Bang or singularity to denigrate people or kill people. Plenty of people have used the word God for that reason. That word has dangerous connotations, and that's why we get so spiky about it, because, oh, it's God, oh, it's God. What God? The God of hellfire, the God of crusade, the God of denigration, the wrathful God? Plenty of God concepts out there are not all flowers and sparkles, and that's why we get spiky about it, mate.
And plenty of God concepts out there are very, very different to each other and contradictory to each other. So just simply labeling it God tells us absolutely nothing about it. I just don't understand it. To me, it's wasted energy. Convince me otherwise, sir. Please do.
You don't need to know about it. It's what we can't come from. I mean, do more scientific research. That's the point. And we find out that maybe that's not God, but that's God's testicle. Maybe that's where we come from, you know. And maybe we are like literally another microcosm, and in another microcosm.
And maybe and if. And the other problem is here, Starman, is that God concepts are often thought stoppers. If we know it's God, why investigate further?
I'm not saying that, though. That's where
you may not be saying it, but someone may take your words and go, "Oh, it's God. I don't need to look into it further."
I think that the use of words here is our biggest roadblock, because, for example, you said that, people have fought and killed for God, but they could do the exact same thing about the Big Bang. They could do the same exact
Show
thing
me
about
one person, other than maybe a drunken punch-up at a science convention, where someone has fought in the name of the Big Bang cosmology model. Like, literally, physically had a fight.
I could go around and kill disabled people and be like, sorry, Darwinism. Same thing, same idea.
Yes, but no one ever has, and no sane person would. But plenty of ostensibly sane people have died in droves with the name of God on their lips. It's like, say, you're trying to counter actual history with wacky what ifs, and so no, I really that word God has a lot of baggage on it. As Richard said, it also does not have much in the way of explanatory power unless you give it traits, and so I don't think it's as harmless as you think it is, man.
I would be very interested. As the Starman, I am doing a degree presently in religion, philosophy, and ethics, and I would be pushed, I think, to find anybody on either amongst my peers, amongst my professors, anybody in the field of religious studies who would say, right, we're going to have a go at describing a God concept. I would be very, very surprised if anybody came up with a description of a Big Bang, the Big Bang, for that God concept. And this is why it's so problematic for me, because it's just muddying the waters for no good reason. We have an explanation, we have a description of what the Big Bang theory is, and we have a name for it. And throwing in something which has other connotations, other descriptions, other properties into that, and just saying, well, actually, the Big Bang Theory is now going to be called God. It is just wasted energy. It's absolutely pointless. I don't understand why you would want to do it. And this is really, I know I keep coming back to this, and I'm sorry, and I appreciate your patience on this call, Starman, but this is really, really fascinating to me that you would spend, first of all, so much energy wanting to just relabel something we all have a name of. And secondly, that you kind of have this pushback, that there is an objection to this. It seems really, really strange. I don't think you'd do it in any other area of your life. I don't think you'd go into a sandwich shop and instead of ordering your regular sandwich, turn around to the person behind the counter and say, today I would like a jumbo jet. I just don't think you'd do it because it's, to be frank, a silly thing to do. And I don't think that anybody would do that in any level of the life, apart from in this redefinition of God, to try and sneak God in to an equation somehow, just to say, well, we can say God exists. Well, you can, but it's a really, really silly way of doing it.
Can I just say that I think it's hilarious that you guys defended the sanity of people that believe in God, who, like an actual God that has a beard and judges them in the sky. Like, you just
because religious belief is not a mental illness. It's a rational thought, but it's not mental illness. They are a lot of them are perfectly sane. A lot of them are very intelligent.
Yeah.
And this is why concepts like cognitive dissonance happens. And I would never turn the guns of accusatory of mental illness on a believer. Now, if someone starts saying things like, I hear the voice of God in my head, and that's like, could be something there. On that one individual level, I might be slightly unnerved, but I'm not going to go up to someone like Mr. Rogers or Stephen Colbert, both of whom are famously religious, and say, you're insane, you're crazy, because they obviously aren't. Or weren't, in Rogers' case.
I'd argue against it. I would say, if you're hearing...
And that does a disservice not only to you, but is also offensive to people with mental illnesses and offensive to just general people with beliefs. Like, that's not a nice way to go about things, Starman, I have to say.
Then I apologize, and I take that back.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, it seems...
Yeah, I mean, that's it. Go on.
No, please, Starman, continue.
No, so again, I really don't think... I think there's too much pushback on it. It doesn't make a difference one way or another. I know you say the connotation of it all, but again, it's all just words. If we were just all mute and we were just talking beeps and burps, then guess what? It doesn't make a difference. It really does not make a difference if we come from something greater. You know what I mean?
Oh, I mean, I can be enraptured, stunned to silence by the majesty and terror of the universe around me. From the tiniest interactions of atoms to the weird concepts around quantum theory to the majestic eons-long dance of stars, planets, galaxies, and don't need any kind of God to find that absolutely magical. I don't need a God concept for greatness. I see it everywhere I go. And if people need a God concept for greatness to see greatness, then I just try and disavow them of that. I don't need it. It's a superfluous. It's a part of our culture that we are growing out of and should grow out of. So that's where I fall on that. Like, greatness is apparent. You don't need a God for it.
Agreed.
Yeah.
I agree, but I don't think there's an intelligent creator. That's all I'm saying. The potential of it just being that we are just a microcosm. Again, that's all it is. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying that, call it whatever you want, God or whatever. It's just a term. The term does not matter. You could call it anything. It does not change what I'm saying. And I don't think you guys seem to be fighting it just because of the terminology of God.
Words do matter. When things have been defined and a general consensus has been come to as to how we define something, it behooves us to try and follow that definition. If I'm trying to talk to you about a concept and I want you to understand it, unless it's something that I need to understand whether you have a particular terminology for it, I'm going to use the standard parlance. So I'm going to call it the singularity, because most cosmologists do. I'm not going to call it God. I'm not going to insinuate that it's God. And if I came up to you and started trying to talk to you about my coddler alternating flange on my fling blangle doodle, and you're like, what the heck is all that? Oh, that's just what I call the tire on my car, because that's what I call it. That's the word I use. And it's like, those are not common terms. I mean, we have arguments in this country about whether it's called a Coke or a soda or a pop, and that's, frippery, that's silly, but at least we understand that we've got a subset, and it does matter. Words matter. Words give us the tools for meaning. It's our communication vector, for the most part. So just being laissez-faire with the definitions of words and slapping labels where you want them just because you think it looks cool, I think is a bad way to go about communication.
Okay, then unintelligent creator, third alternative. That's what it is. It's unintelligent, third alternate. There you go.
And on that note, the Starman, thank you for calling. We have got other calls we're going to get to. I think, Jamie, one of the things that we've kind of seen with both of these calls so far tonight, and they've both been great guys, by the way, and I appreciate that. But I think one of the things we've seen both of them with both of the guys who've called tonight is we've had a lot of them saying, well, what if? What if? What about if? And that is the sticking point, I'm afraid, for me. It's no good. We can speculate all day long, and we can speculate about all kinds of wonderful things that might exist. But the time to believe that things exist is when we have evidence for it. And that seems to be what both these guys have done to some extent. Kind of said, well, we can't really evidence it at the moment, but what if this is the case? And I think that's really, really important to get across that, that shouldn't be your standard.
Yeah.
Your standard shouldn't be, let's think about this. This might be possible. Your standard should be, I believe in this because I know it's possible and I am convinced that it exists.
Yeah, what does the evidence show us? And then we'll go from there. I mean, and this is the thing. I would implore anyone who's having these what-if thoughts to take that need to know, like to want to have an answer. I want to have an answer for this. I must have an answer for this. And turn it into genuine inquiry. Like, don't just go, Big Bang Theory, innit? Probably God, right? If you really care, read a book, read an article, go on a course, get a degree, learn, become a learned. Now, I know we can't learn everything there is to know, but just the whole, I can't be bothered to actually try and find out what the case really is, so I'm just gonna what if it. That leads us down some very dark paths, conspiratorial paths. It just is not a great way to go about interacting with facts and the world in general, in my opinion. But anyway.
No, I do hope that last caller will, start employing that methodology of wordsmith in other areas of his life. When he goes to hire a car, ask for a dog instead, and see how far that gets him in life in general.
It's got 4 sticky out bits, and I like them, so yeah, it's a dog.
Super chats have been given. Thank you very much, you kind people. Miranda Rensberger, who has been a member for 1 year, sent $10 and said, you expect me to donate with no incentive, Richard? I'm sure we can find an incentive somewhere. I'm sure we can, at the back rows, we could have some kind of punch up over the big bank if people donate enough. Just throwing it out there. I probably won't be there, so it won't affect me anyway.
You'll have to take a second. Oh, and it's Forrest Valco with a steel chair.
Yeah, sounds like fun. Could be an idea. Let's float it. Nero sends $2 saying, Big Bang Attack! Vegeta. Checkmate, Jamie.
Yeah, well, I'm currently with the garlic gun, but you can't smell it, so that's fine. That's a Dragon Ball Z reference. We are such nerds. Anyway.
I didn't get that at all. We have patrons. We have some more calls as well we're going to get to shortly. Oh, by the way, on that note, there have been quite a lot of people in the chat today shouting out, and then when they're invited to call, saying, well, I'm not calling because I'm too scared to call and challenge you on air. That might not be what they actually said, but just don't do that. Don't be big man in chat and then not call the show when you're invited, because that's just silly. It's silliness in a jar. The top 5 patrons, Jamie, would you like to read them? Have you got the ability to read them?
If the crew would supply them to me, I'd be happy to read them out.
I will supply them to you right at this very minute. There we go. They are there for you to read, sir.
So our top 5 patrons. Oops, all singularity. There we go. Should we call him Oops, all God? He's up at number 1, and then Dingleberry Jackson, lovely name, and then Kalevi Helveti. I should know how to say these by now. These are very constant supporters of ours. And then Brian Zupke and J.A. Calton, and then an honourable mention in at number 6. Icon Oclast. Very
awesome.
Good.
Thank you all for your support. We do very much appreciate our Patreon supporters. You can become a Patreon supporter too by going to tiny.cc/Patreon. I feel like all I've done is ask for money today, and why not? Send us your money. Please do. It's all for a good cause. It allows us to do what we do. Please do continue to support us. We have... Oh, no.
Yes,
I am so disappointed. We have had a call that was in the queue, and it has just dropped. And it was from someone I have been getting to try to call me on a call-in show for no less than about 4 years, and they have never taken the opportunity to call me. And I was going to take their call, and they have dropped. Jimmy, if you are there, please give us a call back. I cannot believe you've dropped just as I was about to take you. Instead, we're going to take Oblivious from California, who wants to talk to us about God. They are a theist. Oblivious, are you there? Are you there? Can you hear me?
Hi.
Hello.
Yes, I can. How are you today?
Very well. How are
Brand
you?
new, mate. Yeah.
I'm doing awesome. Hopefully this connection works. It sounds a little fuzzy on my end.
You have a little roboty, but we can certainly hear you enough to have a conversation. What would you like to talk to us about?
Oh, I think you're fading out there, Oblivious. You get somewhere with better signal.
Let me walk over here. Maybe it'll be a better signal.
Oh, there you go.
Can you hear me
back.
better now?
Yeah, a bit better. So you're saying that no.
Okay, I want to speak on that. I don't think anybody can deny the belief in God, that it's something that we have no control in.
So I'm going to be direct to you there, Oblivious. Are you saying I'm lying when I say I don't believe in God?
No.
Okay. So how do you square that circle?
Whole scenario. Yes, I would love to explain it. First of all, the definition of God that I conceive as God is the conscious explanation and answer for all things. Is that something that you would think kind of describes God?
Well, so when you say conscious, do you mean that it's a conscious being?
Yes, without consciousness, we have nothing.
No.
You and I are conscious right now.
Okay, yeah, but is it an individual conscious being itself? Is God a separate agent to me?
Because now No, I cannot explain God. I cannot fathom God. I cannot comprehend God. I cannot understand God.
Then I have no reason to believe in anything that cannot be explained, comprehended, or understood until such time as it can be. This is why, again, God of the gaps.
To
Go ahead.
To understand God.
Oh, I think we lost him.
So,
Sorry.
Oblivious, we're losing you again.
And God, which might. Dang it.
You said to understand God, and then you went silent. So to understand God.
To understand the consciousness things.
Oblivious, I'm going to return you to the call queue. I'm going to get the crew to talk to you and see if they can work on that signal, because it's really not productive for a conversation. It's not that we don't want to talk to you, it's that it's really, really difficult to hear the things you're trying to communicate. So I've just put you back in the queue. And I'm going to get the crew to try and work on that sound of yours. Unfortunately, the previous caller hasn't called back. And I cannot tell people how disappointed I am with that. Jamie, let's hit another one of these. While we sort that sound out from the caller, let's hit another one of these chats that we've had, these comments that we've had. Somebody has said of you, I am mocking you, no less. I am an atheist. I quote the Bible, which I don't believe in. How stupid is that?
Why are they so pissed off that I quote the Bible? It's where I'm going. If someone says, I believe in a thing and this is the evidence, I'm going to put my criticism to the evidence you've given me. Like, now, of course, the Bible is the claim, not the evidence, but people want to present it as evidence. So, of course, I'm going to reference it. It's like think about elephants without thinking about elephants. What the hell am I supposed to do? This is your one source of information about your God, and I'm not allowed to reference it. What fucking sense does that make? Anyway.
Yeah, it's really frustrating that happens. We were talking about a previous caller before the show in the green room. Myself, you, and Jimmy. I'm not going to name them. I don't want to do that. But we were talking about one of the previous callers and how they have a very unique perspective on Christianity, to the point where it seems that what they're doing is saying the bits of the Bible that are true are the ones that I agree with and fit into my worldview. And the ones that I don't agree with, well, they're just misinterpreted. And, it's very, very difficult when you've got people coming at you from that angle and then other people saying, well, you shouldn't really be quoting the Bible to have this discussion. How are we supposed to have these discussions without taking the claims? If you're telling us you're a Bible-believing X, whatever you label yourself as, how are we supposed to discuss your beliefs when you're criticizing us for even quoting the Bible in the first place?
Yeah. And I think it's a knee-jerk reaction. And it's like you don't believe in the Bible. Like, I don't believe that many of the stories in the Bible actually happened. I believe the Bible's real. It's a book. Like, it's not like it's a figment of my imagination. I also believe that other people believe it's real, and that's the important thing. It's not my belief that's important. It's not my belief that I'm railing against. It's yours. You think it's real, and that's what's important. So
absolutely. The crew are telling us Oblivious is back and sounding good. Oblivious, you are back on air. Hopefully we can hear you this time. Please continue from where you left off.
Okay, I'll just start over. That my definition of God is the consciousness, the conscious explanation and answer for all things. And no, I cannot explain, fathom, comprehend or understand God. To understand God is an irrational thought. No person is meant to understand God or the infinite universe or all things that are complex and out of the reach as people. My proof for this is that we don't know that there's endless possibilities. Without the endless possibility to say if we knew the answer, we would not have needed or developed our imagination. Our imagination is really necessary to be able to have a relationship with God.
Yes, I would agree with you there. God is a figment of people's imagination.
Our imagination teams up with our subconscious through dreams, near-death experiences, delusions, and mental health, mental illness. These irrational thoughts are our only true understanding of God because God is an irrational thought.
So are you? I'm completely oblivious. I'll be honest with you. I'm completely lost. Are you trying to say that God does exist or God doesn't exist?
I cannot go on with my thought if you interrupt me. I'm not a person that's smart enough to be able to just keep a coherent thought. So I'm trying to finish my thought before you ask me a question. So, I've lost my place now. Our imagination teams up with our subconscious through dreams, near-death experiences, drugs, delusions, and mental issues. And these irrational thoughts is the only way to have an understanding of God, because God is an irrational thought. All people in their conscious and subconscious mind want to know God. Proof is that all the religions since the beginning of time, all the people that are asked the same questions. So
Which
I'm
God?
almost finished. So by
I can assure you are finished. Which God?
I'm really getting to my point now. By wanting to know God, it's a drive in us that is like our sex drive. It creates belief in God. A rational mind will not force itself to believe something irrational.
I've muted you.
Yeah, all I'm hearing is God's not real. God's my imagination. That's all.
I've muted you for two reasons. The first reason is you don't call my show and tell me I can't interrupt you when I have a legitimate question about what you're saying until you've finished your thought. You know, this is how conversations work. I was asking a clarifying question at the point. And secondly, I muted you because you're talking a load of fucking bollocks on every single level of what you're saying. I'm going to unmute you and I'm going to ask you the question I asked you before, and I would like you to answer the question. You are unmuted. Which God are you referring to?
I cannot comprehend God. I cannot understand God. I'm talking about.
Awesome. Then we have no reason to talk about the God you're talking about, because there's absolutely no justification at all for believing that God exists. You, sir, are not on my show anymore.
That's a shame.
Jamie, how did you take that immense amount of verbal testicular that just cascaded into our ears?
I have a somewhat higher tolerance than the average person for verbal bullets, but what I was hoping for, I was almost willing to just let him just get to his point, because I think maybe, again, I don't want to make guesses, he may have been legitimately sort of neurodivergent or something, and he needed to get it all out, otherwise he couldn't answer any questions. But it felt like to me that the only point he was making is that God is a concept we come up with because, again, this has been a theme of the show. We just come up with it because we don't understand or we don't think. He was talking about delusion and drug use and stuff, none of which makes God real. Like, just because I dream I have a fighter plane in the back of my car or whatever, or the back of my apartment, does not make it so. So he was pontificating on the fact that you can't understand it apart from delusions and dreams and drug-induced things and near-death experiences, none of which actually prove that a God is in fact extant. So if my only question for him is God real? That's it. Yeah. And it seems his comeback was just, I can't comprehend God. I'm like, I can't comprehend this conversation.
Yeah, that was it was difficult because of that, because there was no justification whatsoever in anything he said that suggested that there is a good reason for believing that God exists.
Yeah.
But there was also a further kind of difficulty in that virtually everything he said was categorically wrong. And that was even more frustrating when he wouldn't. And I'm all for letting people finish the point. And it sounded to me, the reason I eventually stopped him is that it very much sounded to me like he was reading that from a piece of paper.
Yeah.
The kind of phrasing he was using. And, I don't want you to, by all means, you bring notes to the show and use notes to, help yourself follow along. But don't read from a script because it's really, really painful. So that was a rather damp squib of
compared to the caliber of
really
the first
good
couple
calls.
of calls. Yeah. Like, Jake and Starman, both interesting conversations. And, again, we may or may not have put a seed of doubt in their minds, but, man, that last one was weird.
That is the word. That is the word. We have a prompt for you for next week, which is, why did Jesus skip his high school reunion? Reply in the comments and tune in at the beginning of next week's episode to hear the top 3 answers. And of course, as always, we want to thank Jimmy Jr. for helping out today. Let's get Jimmy on. Where is it? There we go. Jimmy, give us a breakdown of those calls. What did you think about them?
Well, I thought today was a really good show. I'm going to be honest with you. I wasn't surprised that the first or second calls are pretty standard. I would say the third call, though, was a little bit disingenuous for somebody to call in and read. I mean, to suggest that you were interrupting him when he got almost 2 minutes of uninterrupted script reading is incredibly unfair. And, it just goes to show you that he didn't have a good argument. I would probably agree that God is an irrational thought, but then we have to get into discussions about how to define rationality and things like that, and we just don't have time for that. But wonderful show. I'm reading the chat here, and it appears that there was a sighting of me. Somebody hit the wrong button, and I came up real quick. Just proof that I exist. So I was here. The whole time. But thanks for having me on to deliver the question of the week earlier. And it's always fun hanging out with you guys.
Yeah, and if you ever get a chance, go out, and if you spot a Jimmy Jr. in the wild, if you ever catch a sighting of him, send us your photos in. We are.
He's not cryptid. You can see the dust scurrying towards a buffet.
We are going to send some. I'm going to prove you wrong now, because Jimmy Jr. is about to have love rings coming from his forehead. We are going to send out some love rings. There we go. No normal human can do that. He must be a cryptid. There we go. Proof. Let's call Truth Wanted on Friday. We have had a good time today, and we thank you for everybody who has joined us. If you want to join us in the after show, you can do so by going to tiny.cc/ACD Discord. If you believe, no, that's wrong. If you don't believe, see what reading from scripts does to you. It fucks you up something rotten. If you don't believe, this is your community, and we appreciate you being here. And if you do believe, we do not hate you.
We're just defining ourselves to not.
We're just not convinced.
Week, everyone. Thank you for joining us.
We want the truth, so watch Truth Wanted live, Friday at 7 p.m. Central. Visit tiny.cc/YTTW and call into the show at 512-991-9242 or connect to the show online at tiny.cc/calltw.